Zuri Kamara reached home, just as the sun was rising over Makira, her eyes tired from another long night shift. All she wanted was a shower, some sleep, and a little peace. But the moment she stepped into the yard, her heart dropped. Her suitcase was already outside, sitting on the ground like she was a stranger. Her father, Bala Kamara, stood in the doorway with a hard, angry look on his face. And behind him, half hidden but definitely enjoying the moment, Ao Mensa, his new wife, watched with a small smirk on her lips. Zuri tried to understand what she was seeing. "Papa, why is my bag outside?" she asked, her voice soft but shaky. Bala didn't even hesitate. "Because you've crossed the line, Zuri," he snapped. "You're spoiling Ao's children, paying their school fees behind my back like you're their real mother." Zuri blinked slowly, confused. She thought he would be proud she was helping the two little ones. But instead, he looked at her like she had committed a crime. Before she could answer, Ao leaned forward and whispered just loud enough for Zuri to hear. "This house isn't yours. Stop acting like it is." Those words hit Zuri like a slap. She felt something inside her tighten, but she didn't respond. She just stared at Ao, her eyes calm but sharp, eyes that said, "You have no idea what you've just started." Bala pointed at the suitcase. "Take your things and leave. I won't repeat myself." Zuri stood still for a moment, breathing slowly, letting the shock settle. She didn't argue. She didn't cry. She simply picked up her backpack, her silence heavier than any words she could have spoken. And as she turned away from the house she grew up in, the sunrise behind her, one thing became very clear. This betrayal was going to change everything. 5 years earlier, Zuri Kamara had still been a girl who believed family came before everything, before money, before pride, even before her own comfort. When her mother died, the world around her collapsed in one silent sweep. She remembered standing in their small living room, staring at the empty chair her mother always used, wondering how life could move forward without her warmth. Bala mourned too, but in his own distant, harsh way. He grew colder, more controlling, and more careless with his responsibilities. And in that quiet space of grief, Zuri made a decision. She would take care of the family the way her mother had always done. So she picked up 3 jobs at once, working a night shift at the clinic, helping at a small tailoring shop in the afternoons, and cleaning offices on weekends. She barely slept, barely had time to breathe, but she did it because she felt responsible. She thought her mother would want her to hold the family together. What she didn't know then was that her mother had already been holding her in a different way. One last act of protection that Zuri had no idea existed. A few weeks after the funeral, her mother's close friend, attorney Safina Badu, met with Zuri privately. Safina handed her a sealed envelope and said, "Your mother told me to give this to you when the time was right." Zuri didn't open it immediately. She kept it hidden in her room for days, too overwhelmed to face yet another surprise. When she finally opened it, she found copies of legal documents, signatures, stamps, a deed, and a letter in her mother's handwriting. That letter shook her to the core. Her mother had transferred full ownership of their home to Zuri before she died. She had gone to Freetown Court, signed everything, and made Safina the witness. Her mother had written, "One day, you will need this. People change. Love changes. But I trust you to protect yourself when I cannot." Zuri had cried reading those words. She felt both honored and heartbroken. She was only 19 at the time, still trying to navigate grief. Keeping that secret felt heavy, but she refused to use it. She wanted peace more than power. She didn't want to hurt her father or make him feel threatened. She believed, naively maybe, that family bonds were stronger than greed or jealousy. So she told no one. She folded the papers neatly, put them in a sealed envelope, and locked it in a small box under her bed. She didn't even tell her best friend. She worked every day, helped her father, cooked meals, cared for the house, because she always assumed they were still a unit. But now, standing outside with her suitcase thrown on the ground by the man she trusted most, she felt that old envelope burning in her memory. Her father pushing her out was painful, but Ao's smirk, that cruel whisper, "This house isn't yours," cut deeper than any. Zuri realized in that moment that her mother had been right. People do change, loyalty fades, and sometimes the only protection you truly have is the one someone left for you long before the betrayal arrived. When Zuri walked away from the house that morning, her heart heavy with betrayal, her mind wandered back to the very beginning, back to when Ao and her 2 young children, Kweku and Nala, first entered their lives. The kids had been shy at first, clinging to Ao's skirt and whispering answers whenever someone spoke to them. Zuri remembered kneeling down, smiling softly, and saying, "It's okay, you're safe here." Those words weren't just for comfort. They were a promise she fully meant. She had always loved children, and something about Kweku and Nala touched her heart deeply. Maybe it was the way they stared with wide, hopeful eyes. Maybe it was because she saw pieces of her younger self in them. Whatever the reason, she took them under her wing naturally. After long night shifts, Even when her eyelids were heavy and her feet ached, she still found the energy to sit at the table with them doing homework. She helped Kweku with his maths, carefully showing him tricks to make numbers fun. She guided Nala with her reading, cheering every time the little girl sounded out a difficult. On school mornings, Zuri woke earlier than everyone else to prepare their lunches, packing rice, fried plantains, and sometimes small treats she secretly bought from her own salary. Ao rarely noticed. Or if she noticed, she never appreciated it. She would simply let Zuri do the work, as if she were obligated. And the medical bills, those hurt Zuri most. She remembered the night Nala had a terrible fever, shaking and crying. Bala was nowhere to be found, and Ao panicked so hard she couldn't think straight. Zuri wrapped Nala in a blanket and rushed her to the clinic herself. When the bill came, and Ao quietly said, "I don't have the money right now," Zuri didn't hesitate. She paid it in full, using money she had saved for new nursing textbook. She didn't complain. She didn't ask for thanks. All she cared about was that the kids were okay. But slowly, very slowly, she started noticing small changes in Bala and Ao's behavior. Bala would frown whenever the kids ran to her first. If Zuri bought them school shoes, he would ask, "Why didn't you tell me?" But the way he asked wasn't grateful. It was accusing, like she was trying to show him up. Ao, on the other hand, became strangely cold. At first she acted polite, smiling whenever Zuri was around. But the moment Zuri turned away, she could feel Ao's eyes on her, watchful, suspicious. One afternoon, Zuri walked into the living room and overheard Ao telling Bala, "Your daughter is making my children forget who their real mother is." It stunned Zuri. She had never tried to replace Ao. She only wanted the kids to feel loved and supported. But in Ao's mind, affection was competition. Care was a threat. And as days turned into months, jealousy began to spread through the house like poison, slow, silent, invisible. Bala interpreted every kind act Zuri did as a challenge to his authority. Ao twisted every little moment into an insult, convinced Zuri was trying to steal her children's hearts. The sad part? The kids loved Zuri simply because she showed up for them, because she listened, because she cared without keeping score. But in a home where insecurity lived in every corner, even love became dangerous. And Zuri didn't realize it then, but those small moments of kindness were exactly what planted the seed for the explosion that came later. The moment Zuri stepped into the yard and saw her suitcase thrown outside, Bala's voice suddenly thundered through the neighborhood. It wasn't just anger. He wanted an audience. He wanted witnesses. He wanted people to see him, put his daughter in her place. Before Zuri could even gather her thoughts, Bala marched to the gate and shouted loudly, "Everybody come and see this. No child questions me in my own home." His voice carried across the street, bouncing off walls and windows. Within minutes, curious neighbors peeked out from their doors. Some stepped closer. Some whispered. Some shook their heads in pity. But all of them watched. Zuri stood there quietly, holding her backpack against her chest. Her cheeks burned from embarrassment, but she didn't want to give anyone the satisfaction of seeing her break. She just stared at her father, not with hatred, just deep disbelief. This was the man she had worked so hard to support. This was the same father she once protected with every fiber of her being. Bala, fueled by ego and Ao's influence, kept shouting, "She thinks she knows better than me. She thinks she can spend money on children that are not hers." He strutted around like he was giving a speech, not realizing how foolish he looked. Meanwhile, Kweku and Nala came running out of the house, their little faces streaked with tears. "Auntie Zuri, please don't go." Nala cried, grabbing her leg. "Please stay," Kweku begged, his voice trembling. Zuri's heart cracked. She bent down and hugged them tightly, feeling their tiny arms wrap around. In that moment, they weren't just step-siblings. They were two innocent children caught in the storm of adults' insecurities. Ao rushed forward, her face twisted with irritation, and yanked the children back so hard that Nala stumbled. "Stop crying. She is leaving and that is final." Ao snapped. The children screamed and reached for Zuri, but Ao held them back with a grip too tight for comfort. Zuri stood slowly, her eyes narrowing not in anger but in something far colder, clarity. The entire neighborhood watched, expecting her to beg, to defend herself, to scream back. But she didn't. She didn't say a single word. Her silence made Bala even angrier. "Did you hear me? Get out," he barked, stepping closer as if to intimidate her. But Zuri didn't move quickly. She didn't rush. She didn't panic. She simply adjusted her backpack strap and picked up her small bag from the ground. Every movement she made was calm, controlled, almost too controlled. A few neighbors muttered things like, "This is too much," and Bala has gone too far. But no one stepped in. No one dared. Zuri finally looked up at her father, one long, unreadable stare. There were no tears, no shaking voice, no fear. Just a quiet determination that chilled even the onlookers who didn't know the full story. And then, without a single word, she turned and walked away. Her steps were steady. Her back was straight. And though she looked calm, there was something dangerous in the way she left, like a storm walking on 2 feet, silently promising that this humiliation would not be the end of the story. People whispered behind her. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She didn't look defeated. Because they could all sense it. Zuri leaving like that meant something was coming. Something big. Something Bala and Ao were not ready for. Zuri didn't go far after leaving the house. She walked straight to the main road, breathing hard but keeping her face steady. She wasn't crying, but her chest felt tight, as if years of loyalty and patience were finally collapsing inside her. For a moment she considered going to a friend's place, maybe sitting somewhere quiet to breathe. But then a clearer thought rose in her mind, Safina Badu. Her mother's lawyer, and her mother's closest friend. The one person who knew the truth buried beneath all the chaos. Zuri flagged down a motorbike taxi and gave the address. The whole ride, she stared at the sunrise turning the sky orange, wondering how everything had changed in just 1 hour. When she reached Safina's office, the building was quiet except for a cleaner sweeping the hallway. Safina wasn't expecting her, but the moment she saw Zuri step in, with her backpack, tired eyes, and a look of silent resolve, Safina understood something had gone. "Zuri," she said softly, walking toward her. "What happened?" Zuri didn't answer with words. She simply sat down in one of the chairs across the desk and took a trembling breath. After a few seconds she whispered, "Auntie Safina, I think it's time." Safina paused, her expression shifting from concern to deep seriousness. Without asking another question, she walked to her file cabinet, the one with private, sealed documents. She pulled out a brown envelope that had been untouched for 5 years. The envelope Zuri had hoped to never open again. Safina placed it gently on the desk. "You're sure?" she asked. Zuri nodded. "He threw me out," she said, her voice cracking just a little. In front of the whole neighborhood, a sadness flickered across Safina's face, but she didn't show shock, almost like she had always expected something like this to happen. She carefully opened the envelope and unfolded the documents one by one. First, the ownership deed with her mother's signature. Then, the official land title issued by Freetown Court. And finally, the transfer document naming Zuri Kamara as the sole legal owner of the entire property. Seeing her mother's handwriting again made Zuri's chest tighten. It felt like her mother was speaking to her through those lines of ink, guiding her, protecting her, warning her. Zuri whispered, barely audible, "I didn't want it to come to this." Safina reached across the table and squeezed her hand gently. "Your mother knew they would betray you one day. She told me, Zuri loves too deeply. People will take advantage of that." She held up the deed. "This house was her shield for you." Zuri lowered her gaze, tears finally pooling in her eyes, but they weren't tears of weakness. They were tears of realization, tears of relief, tears of anger that had simmered too long. Safina leaned back and said firmly, "You have every legal right. More than that, you have the truth." Zuri exhaled slowly, feeling a new strength settle inside her. The humiliation she faced that morning still burned, but now she had something powerful, something they never expected. Her mother didn't just leave her a house. She left her a weapon, a way to stand up for herself when everyone else tried to tear her down. And for the first time that day, Zuri felt ready. Ready to go back. Ready to reclaim what was hers. While Zuri sat with Safina, gathering her strength and preparing for the storm ahead, things inside the house she once called home were unfolding at lightning speed. Ao had wasted no time. The moment Zuri walked out of the gate, Ao shut the door behind her with a grin so wide it almost split her face. She turned to Bala as if she had just won a battle. "Finally, that girl was becoming too bold," she said, clapping her hands lightly. "Now we can live in peace." Bala, still breathing heavily from the shouting match, nodded. "She disrespected me," he muttered. "I had no choice." Ao wasted no time feeding his ego. "You did the right thing. You protected your family, our family." The way she said our family was sharp, intentional, and soaked in poison. Bala fell for it instantly. Then Ao lowered her voice and said the sentence she had been waiting to say for months. "You know, maybe it's time we sell this house and buy something bigger, something nicer, something for us." Bala blinked. "Sell the house?" Ao nodded as if it were the most reasonable idea in the world. "Yes. This place is old. Too many memories of your first wife. Too much drama. We need a fresh start for the children." Bala hesitated only for 5 seconds. Then he nodded, not realizing he was agreeing to the biggest mistake of his life. "You're right. Let's do it." Ao's eyes sparkled. She pulled out her phone and started dialing numbers immediately. "I know someone who knows a buyer. We can sell fast, get a good price. We'll finally have the life we deserve." She walked around the house, imagining new furniture, a bigger kitchen, a home where she controlled everything. A place where Zuri would never step foot again. She talked as if the house already belonged to her. "This living room is too small, and the bedrooms too cramped. We can buy a modern home with a garden, maybe even a gate with security. Bala, desperate to keep her pleased, kept nodding at every word. Call whoever you need. Let's sell it. Within minutes, Ao had contacted 2 agents and sent photos of the house. She bragged about its location, its value, its size, forgetting that she had no ownership, no title, and no right to even make the decision. But in her excitement, she didn't notice something important. Across the street, standing partly hidden behind a mango tree, Zuri watched everything. She had come back with Safina to quietly observe before taking action, and what she saw made her heart ache, not from sadness, but from disgust. Ao laughing, Bala agreeing like a puppet. The home her mother saved for her being discussed like it was a toy. Zuri didn't move. She didn't interrupt. She didn't let her anger show. She simply stood there, calm and expressionless, listening to Ao loudly brag over the phone. Yes, the house is available for quick sale. If Ao had looked out the window at that moment, she would have frozen. Because Zuri's face was cold, focused, dangerously silent. The kind of silence that comes right before everything flips. They had no idea that the girl they threw out only hours ago was about to return as the one person who could end everything they were. The day the buyer arrived, the house buzzed with fake excitement. Ao had polished every corner, sprayed expensive perfume, and dressed like she was giving a royal tour. Bala stood beside her, chest puffed out, pretending he owned the whole world. A shiny SUV pulled into the compound, and a wealthy-looking man stepped out with 2 assistants. Ao rushed forward with a smile so wide it almost hurt to look at. Welcome, welcome. You're going to love this property, she said, waving her hands proudly. Bala nodded, playing along. Yes, it's a good family home. We're only selling because we want something bigger. The buyer walked inside, looking around with interest. Ao and Bala followed closely behind, eager to impress him. But the moment they entered the living room, the atmosphere changed. Because sitting calmly on the sofa, legs crossed, hands folded, was Zuri. Ao's smile disappeared instantly. Bala froze in place. The buyer paused mid-step, confused. Zuri stood up slowly, like she had all the time in the world. Her face was calm, almost peaceful, but her eyes carried a storm. Ao exploded first. What are you doing here? You have no right to walk inside my house. Zuri looked at her the way a teacher looks at a misbehaving child, calm, tired, unimpressed. Your house? She repeated softly, as if tasting the lie. Bala stepped forward, trying to regain control. Zuri, get out. I told you already. Security. The security guard, a tall man named Sori, hurried inside. He looked uncomfortable, but obeyed. Miss Zuri, sir said you must leave, he said quietly. The buyer watched the drama unfold with raised eyebrow. Zuri didn't move. Instead, she reached into her bag and pulled out a neatly folded document. Without a word, she handed it to Sori. Read this first, she said. The guard hesitated, then opened the document. His eyes scanned the lines quickly, and then slowly, and then he froze. His face changed. His hands trembled slightly. He looked up at Zuri in shock. Miss, this is the ownership deed, he whispered. Ao snatched the paper from him, but Zuri calmly took it back before she could tear it. Careful, she said softly. That's the original. Bala stepped forward angrily. What nonsense is this? I'm the head of this house. No, sir, the guard suddenly interrupted, standing straighter. His voice was firmer now. She is the legal owner. Her name is on the deed. No one here outranks her. The room fell dead silent. Ao's jaw dropped. Bala's face drained of color. The buyer blinked slowly, as if trying to understand what kind of madness he had walked into. Zuri gently placed the documents on the table and looked each of them in the eye. I didn't want to come to this point, she said softly, but you pushed me here. The buyer quietly cleared his throat. I think I should leave. Ao reached out to stop him, but he stepped back immediately. I don't buy trouble, he said, walking out. Zuri watched him go, then turned back to her father and Ao. Her voice was calm, but every word hit harder than a slap. This house is mine. It has been mine for 5 years. And today, you will accept that truth. The whole room went silent the moment Bala lunged forward, trying to snatch the paper out of Zuri's hand. But Zuri was faster. She stepped back, held the document high, and said in a steady voice, Don't touch me. Everyone froze. Bala's face tightened with panic, like she already knew what was coming. Zuri unfolded the paper slowly, letting the tension settle over the room. You want the truth, she said. Fine. Here it is. She looked Bala straight in the eyes. This house, this property, everything? My mother made me the sole owner. Not you. A loud gasp went through the room. Someone dropped a cup. Ao's mouth hung open. Bala staggered a little, her hand shaking as she pointed at the paper. That's impossible. She would never do that. But Zuri didn't flinch. She did. While she was sick, you two were busy calculating your future. But she trusted me. She knew exactly what she was signing. Bala's whole body trembled. You're lying. You're lying. she shouted, but her voice cracked halfway, making it clear even she didn't believe her own words. Zuri continued, her voice firm but calm. Ao, your children were never the problem. None of this happened because of them. It happened because of your pride. You wanted respect without giving any. You wanted authority you never earned. Ao's face turned red. He slammed his hand on the table. Enough! You think you can talk to me like that? You think waving one stupid paper makes you superior? You're a liar just like your mother. The moment he insulted her mother, Zuri's expression changed. She didn't shout. She didn't flinch. That calm, quiet anger was worse than any scream. Before Ao could launch into another rant, the head security guard stepped forward, his voice steady and cold. Sir, that's enough. Ao turned to him with fury in his eyes. This is my house. Stay out of it. The guard didn't move. No, sir. It is not. He pointed to the document still in Zuri's hand. Madam is the legal owner. She does not need your permission. You are the ones trespassing. Ao's jaw dropped. Bala's knees buckled, and she had to grab the edge of a chair to stay upright. The room felt like it tilted. All the relatives who had been whispering behind Zuri's back suddenly went quiet, pretending they hadn't taken sides just minutes ago. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Zuri lowered the paper and stepped forward, her voice soft but cutting. This house was my mother's legacy, and you both tried to use it to push me out. But now, it's time to face the consequences. Ao opened his mouth to argue again, but no sound came out. Bala looked like she might faint. Everyone could feel it. The power had shifted completely. And for the first time, Zuri wasn't the one standing on shaky ground. They were. After the guard confirmed Zuri's ownership, she took a deep breath and straightened her shoulders. It was time to set the rules clearly. She reached into her bag and pulled out another document, a formal removal notice. She handed it to Bala and Ao, her hands steady, her voice calm. You have 30 days to vacate this house, she said softly, looking directly at 30 days. No exceptions. For a moment, silence hung in the room. Then Ao erupted like a volcano. 30 days? She screamed, throwing her hands in the air. This is outrageous. How dare you? I've been taking care of these children for years. This is my home too. Bala, who had been frozen in disbelief, finally crumbled. Tears streamed down his face as he muttered, I never wanted it to come to this. Zuri, I. His voice broke, the proud, angry man from earlier reduced to a trembling, defeated mess. Meanwhile, Kweku and Nala ran into Zuri's arms, clinging tightly, their little faces streaked with tears. Don't let them make us leave, Auntie Zuri. Nala cried. Kweku hugged her leg, whispering, Please, we want to stay with you. Zuri hugged them back, feeling her chest swell with protectiveness. She smiled softly, brushing Nala's hair from her face. You're always welcome here, she whispered. This will always be your home. But I cannot let your mother stay. Some adults need lessons, and they will learn them in time. Ao's face twisted in fury. You think you can just kick me out? I raised these children too. I will not leave. Bala sobbed openly now, hiding his face in his hand. Zuri, I don't know what to say. But Zuri remained calm, her voice firm but gentle. You will leave. 30 days. No arguments. This isn't about punishment. It's about respect and honesty. You pushed me out once. Now you will honor the law. Ao tried to grab the children, but they clung to Zuri even tighter. She gently but firmly held them close. Listen, she said. They belong to both worlds. You are their parent, yes, but this house, this home, is under my care now. Respect that. After several minutes of shouting and pleading, Bala and Ao finally stormed out, dragging their pride and anger behind them. The house was quiet again, except for the soft sniffles of Kweku and Nala. Zuri knelt down and hugged them tightly. It's okay, she whispered. You don't have to be afraid. You're safe with me. I'll protect you, just like my mother would have. The children's tears slowly eased, and they smiled weakly, relief shining through. Zuri stood, looking around the house. The walls, the floors, the garden, all hers to protect and care for. For the first time in years, she felt the weight lift from her shoulders. Bala and Ao had underestimated her. They thought fear and threats could control her. But Zuri had learned the truth. Boundaries and courage could change everything. And as Kweku and Nala followed her through the rooms, chattering about plans for their new home life, Zuri knew one thing clearly. She wasn't just reclaiming a house. She was building a family of her own choosing, safe, loyal, and loved. In the weeks that followed, Zuri rolled up her sleeves and transformed the house she had fought so hard to reclaim. She painted the walls in warm colors, repaired broken windows, and planted flowers in the garden. Every room reflected her care, turning the house from a cold, contested space into a home filled with laughter, warmth, and safety. Kweku and Nala helped too, excitedly picking curtains, arranging books on shelves, and placing little trinkets in corners. Bala tried to come around a few times, offering apologies and awkward smiles. But Zuri listened politely, kept her distance, and made it clear that boundaries were non-negotiable. Respect had to be earned, not demanded. Ao never returned, but even their absence became a lesson in self-worth for the children. They saw firsthand what it meant to stand firm. The story of Zuri's courage and calm strength spread through Makira like wildfire. Neighbors whispered, posted, and shared the tale. The girl they threw out turned out to be the landlord. People admired how she faced betrayal with dignity and then turned it into power. Some even came by to congratulate her or ask for advice, amazed that one young woman had claimed her rightful place with such quiet authority. One evening, Zuri sat on the porch with Kweku and Nala nestled beside her. The sun dipped low over Makira, casting golden light across the garden. She held them close and whispered softly, her voice full of love and promise. "My mother protected us. Now I'll protect you." For the first time, she felt completely at peace. She wasn't just the owner of a house. She was the guardian of a home, a family she had chosen and nurtured. And in that moment, surrounded by laughter, trust, and warmth, Zuri realized she had finally become the family she had always longed